Hey everybody, it's Christopher K. Smith. This is my FibLines quarterly update for June 25th of 2017. This video should last just about 10 minutes, and here's your standard disclaimer regarding trading products. Be careful, don't trade with money you can't afford to lose, etc. So I'll give you a quick introduction to the FibLines indicator for those who aren't familiar with it, and then we'll go on to review the markets and some of my favorite symbols. So what is FibLines? FibLines is a technical study that you can apply to a chart that helps you identify potential areas of support and resistance. So you look at a chart like this and you say, well, it's certainly going up, but at what point might it find support and resistance? So by using the Fibonacci retracements tool, it looks like this little percent sign down here. You pick a point on the chart and you draw a top and a bottom. You select that initial move, and you can see, just like magic, you now see resistance at the 161 level, the 261 level, and the 423% level. And these are all Fibonacci ratios or calculations determined from Fibonacci by selecting this initial move down here. So you might look at that and say, well, Chris, that's great, but why didn't you choose this section over here, that section over there? And the reason why is it's because it's part technical calculation and part human interpretation. So you have to go through each individual chart and determine where those areas of support, or where the initial wave 1 is, call it Elliott wave 1, call it the initial impulse move, whatever, has to be done by hand for each individual chart. And then these levels are encoded on the indicator, encoded inside the indicator. So this is what the chart looks like without the indicator, and we're going to add it to show you what the chart looks like with it. So once you add the indicator, you can see that all the levels are drawn for you, as well as potential turning points. So it's amazing. I've seen this indicator work so many times, and as we go through the video, I can show you some examples of how you use it in trading and why it's helpful to know when to expect tops and how to find targets and things like that. If you want to know more about the FibLines indicator, go up to YouTube and search for Introduction to FibLines. That's a video I did about a year ago. Then you can I'll give you the full backstory on FibLines, how they're calculated, how they work, why they work, and what the deal is further. So this is my quarterly update, and I'm going to go back. First, let's look at the markets in general. So I wanted to find a symbol that represented this total market capitalization. So I came up with this one, W5000, the Wilshire Total Market Cap Index. And looking at this move from the low over here on November 8th, 2016, the day of the election, to today, it's just been a huge move to the upside. It's about a 19% move from the bottom here to where we are right now. So it's been a huge period of wealth building. I hope you made a lot of money. I've done pretty well myself. And a lot of this has to do with the sort of the pro-business, the business-friendly environment we have in Washington now. You may not like Donald Trump, you may not agree with his policies, but he's certainly been positive for the economy and for the stock market overall. And that's a very positive thing overall. And you may think, well, what's the difference between 1.5% growth or 2% growth? After a couple of years, those percentage differences make a huge difference in the size of the economy and our standard of living and everything. So it's been a very positive time to be in the markets, and I hope you're taking advantage of it. So back to the FibLines. Let's take a look at some of the favorites of the financials. Visa's one that I think I updated in a recent interim update. We can see that's recently cleared the 261 line with a target of $104 to the upside. Another good one is MasterCard. So Visa and MasterCard, both very positive looking charts. MasterCard, you have a target over here at $129. It's much kind of further along in its life cycle. And this isn't necessarily the end of the stock forever. It's just this end of the sequence based on this current interpretation. So this is relatively late stage. One that I like that's earlier stage would be PayPal, PYPL. And if you remember from my prior updates, I was with this one for, I think I bought this breakout over here. And I was disappointed. I had to stay with the stock really for almost for an entire year. So it finally made a big move here. Broke the 161 line and all the way up to the 261 line. Took a little pause. And I noticed at that point that the stock started to move off that 261 line. And because I knew this line was here and I knew the significance of it, I took that as an opportunity to double down on the stock. So it had a nice run after that, pulled it back very neatly to the 261 line, had almost a perfect 3-bar reversal, actually a perfect 3-bar reversal off the 261 line, and now it's headed to the upside. So I like PayPal, and I'm sticking with it, and the earnings look good, and I think I don't have an earnings date on that now, but Another cool thing about the FibLines indicator is that once the lines are drawn, they work in pretty much any time frame. You could look at an hourly chart, you could look at a weekly chart, and the lines do not move. They're in the same position regardless of what time frame you look at the chart. So just to give you an idea, the 423% line on PayPal is all the way up here at $63. So you can see what kind of analysis you can do with FibLines. And you have these future turning points projected into the future as well. So that's what you can do with FibLines that you can't do with other more conventional indicators. So let's take a look at some retailers. Costco, COST, has pretty much nasty deflection off of the 423% line here, and a big sell-off. I expect to see some support down here at the 261 line at $154. But it's been pretty rough for traditional retailers. I think it's fair to say. ROST store is another one that I do the lines on. It's also not looking so good. Like that's come all the way down almost to the 100% line here at 53. So what's been pain for traditional retailers has been a gain for Amazon, AMZN. So the stock has really just been on fire. And it's another good example of how you can use FibLines to come up with targets that you really can't do with any other method of analysis that I'm aware of. And so Amazon's been on an incredible tear. I think I've reinterpreted it 3 times to the upside in the past few years. And I had a nice trade in this past quarter when it was at about $950. I thought it was pretty much a slam dunk. It was going to go to 1,000. So I bought the 900 call and sold the 1,000 call for about 55, and took about 10 points out of that. Did real well with that, and I think we have some further upside to go in Amazon. Earnings are due on July 27th, so be aware of that. And you can see that our target for Amazon is up here at $1,152, and I think that's not even the end of it. I think the stock's going to keep going. So look for sell-offs. This resell-off we had here was a good opportunity to get in. And I was mentioning you can change the time frame on this, and you notice how the fib lines are holding, and the lines are in the same positions, and regardless of what time frame you're in. So you can see we had a little deflection off this gray line. Boom, right down to that gray line, and then we're headed, we're kind of in a sideways pattern right now. So Amazon looking good. Alibaba, I interpreted this one to the upside. I believe 2 reports back. Not bad, but Baba. This one had some news, popped up to the 161 line. It's now consolidating. I think Alibaba's called the Amazon of China. I think it's probably got some great growth prospects ahead of it. The challenge is, though, since it's a Chinese company, the financial disclosure is not quite what we'd like it to be. Regulation FD does not apply, and there's also some concerns about counterfeiting. So I stick with Amazon over Alibaba, but looking at the FibLine sequence, you could see that Alibaba is much earlier in the sequence, and if it runs the full 423, we see we have a potential move. The 261 is here at 173, and the 461 is over here at 227. So it's much earlier in its life cycle than Amazon. Okay, next up, my favorite social media stock, Facebook. If you've been watching my previous reports, you know I've been with this one for a long time. I'm a big fan of Facebook. I use it personally to keep track of what's going on in the world and keep up with my friends. And my most recent position here, I got in at about $100. Not the most recent, but my second most recent, I got in about $100. I'm up about 50% on that one. And we're coming up on the right side of a topping pattern here. Not a topping pattern, but we're coming up against some recent resistance off of this gray line here. And we have a squeeze, TTM squeeze in the daily, which means we're in a period of consolidation. So we could very easily pop, if we pop out of this recent high here at 155.59. It could be off to the upside with the next resistance point at 158, and our 423% target is on $165. I don't even think that's a top. I think the stock's got a lot further to go. If you look at the earnings growth rate, it's something like 100% earnings growth in the last 5 years. So very impressive stock, very impressive company. I don't think we're done with Facebook yet. Okay, the chip stocks have been on fire. Nvidia NVDA being in the big one. Had some earnings back here, and you can see what a difference it's made to the stock. Took out this area of resistance here, and it's just been off to the upside. Been consolidating here recently around the 261 line, but I do expect we're going to continue to the upside in Nvidia after after some consolidation. So you want to see the TTM squeeze come down. You want to see some red dots here as it goes into a period of consolidation before you consider alongside entry. Biotech stocks had an incredible week. IBB. I reinterpreted this one just recently in this update, and you can see we had a big sell-off here, found some support, and I had a pretty established area of a low and a high here, so it wasn't that difficult to find the bottom and top of the Elliott Wave 1, which represents 100. And we can see our target here on this would be $334. Also been with a biotech stock for a long time, Gilead, as you know if you've seen my previous updates. I've been in the house of pain on the stock. My cost base is somewhere up in the $90 range, so I've been deeply in the hole on this one. I don't usually like to ride stocks down, but for whatever reason I did on this one. And we had a nice move here in the past week with this surge in biotechs. Had a nice TTM squeeze in the daily, and it's headed back up. Probably ready for a bit of a rest here, but I'm sticking with Gilead. Hopefully I'll get some of my money back in that one. Okay, and one more stock I want to talk about was Tesla, TSLA. Now this stock's just been completely on fire, and considering the stock, they're not even making any money, you wonder what method of analysis can be helpful in trying to figure out where the stock's going to go and where it's going to stop. And the answer is the FibLines. So let's take a look at what our target is here on Tesla. We had what could be described here as a parabolic move to the upside, at a pretty sharp angle. We had a little basing pattern, and then we had another move to the upside with an even sharper angle. That's what's been going on here since from the 313 up to the 380 area. So with hardly a squeeze on the daily. So looking at this, your target for Tesla would be $426 would be your target in that 423% line, and that's how's that calculated? It's basically just this initial impulse move here, which represents 100, and then you have 161, 261, and 423. And if you recognize the fib sequence, that's the sum of the previous two numbers. So in other words, 100 plus 61, and you add those two together, and you get 261, and then 423, which is the sum of the desired two sequences. So again, if you want more details on the fib sequence, watch my other video called Introduction to FibLines. So I believe that's it. So if you want to get the FibLines, you can go over here to fibtools.cells.com, and over there you can download the free version of the range bands indicator for Thinkorswim. That's free. That's a trend following indicator. You have a free version of the FibLines indicator for Thinkorswim. That includes your major indexes, your Dow, your QQQ, your IWM, and your major futures, your TF, your NQ, and your the Dow, the YM for the Dow. Then there's a full version of the FibLines indicator for Thinkorswim. That includes support for about 200 symbols, your Dow 30, your NASDAQ 100, some of your cash settled futures, the dollar index, the euro, a couple of commodities. It's basically all in there. That includes support for about 200 symbols. And with that purchase, you get 4 quarterly updates. And this is my quarterly update again for June of 2017. And remember that FibLines it's not just a study. It's the charts have to get reinterpreted over time. And I spend quite a bit of time doing this. I start quarterly updates maybe like 2 months before, and I go through all the symbols, and quite a number of them have to be recalculated for the levels to be valid. So there's quite a bit of work involved in it, but I enjoy doing it. I love doing it. I certainly find it helpful in trading. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.